muted to avoid unnecessary noises.
For your questions or concerns, kindly write them in the chat box. This will be answered by the speakers during the open forum session. We would also request all the participants to fill out the evaluation link later on for the issuance of the certificate of participation. And today's webinar will be live stream on the PWU official Facebook and YouTube channels. Feel free to share the YouTube link with your colleagues and friends. Welcome back to the Philippine Women's University webinar with a theme entitled Food Safety and Quality, Way Forward to Economic Recovery. I am Carmen Policarpio from the School of Food Science and Technology, Master in Food Safety.
And I'm Maricar D. Albao from the School of Food Science and Technology, Masters in Food Science, and we will be your moderators for this afternoon session. To all our attendees and guests, we would like to extend our gratitude for joining today's session. We hope you will find the topics that we have lined up for you this session to be thought-provoking, engaging, and of course, fruitful. Before we start this afternoon session, let's have first a refresher on the last topic, wherein we'll learn the importance of traceability. It is by tracking down the history of an item, the manufacturers can identify any issues that may have arisen during the production. This information can be used to assess the quality and improve the quality control procedure. With that, I think full overload tayo ng information from the AM. So to all our attendees, I hope you had a great lunch so you have an energy for the next presentation. Speaking of which, Ma'am Carmen, ikaw ba, what did you have for lunch? Ako kasi I had light meal lang. Isang burger lang talaga.
Wow, burger! Snacks lang kasi medyo kabado nung Scar. For me, I had pork adobo with egg. By the way, speaking of food, have you guys wondered if your meat is 100% pork, chicken, or in general, have you questioned the way you see the authenticity of the food you take?
Oops, I'm guilty on that, Ma'am Carmen. Minsan kasi, pag nag-crave na ako, no question asked na, attack na agad. But yes, I agree with you on this, no. There are products kasi in the market na modified na sa in such a way for them to increase yung profit and of course, ma-reduce natin yung production cost, which we as a consumer are deceived of. And it's not just honey and milk, no, pero a lot more of ingredients in our kitchen that might be adulterated. So really, I think kailangan natin ng systematic and of course, simplified way of checking, Ma'am Carmen.
Okay, lucky for us, Ms. Carr. Today's topic focused on increasing awareness and mitigating risks of food fraud and adulteration. This afternoon's topic would make us realize the value of being meticulous to the foods we buy, as raw or cooked, and the foods we eat. To kick off, let me introduce to you our distinguished speakers. Our first speaker is a BS Food Technology graduate from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, Quezon City. He is currently the Project Development Officer 2 in Department of Education. Moreover, he is formerly the Project Development Officer 1 in the Philippine Science High School and an Instructor 1 on Food Microbiology, Food Safety and Hygiene, also in University of the Philippines, Diliman, Quezon City.
Wow, of same caliber, our next speaker is another food technologist with more than 6 years of experience in a medium-scale food production, quality control, and research and development. She also served as an internal and external auditor for various suppliers, manufacturing companies, and firms. They will be sharing with us their valuable expertise on the presentation entitled Protect Yourself Against the Food Adulteration and Food Fraud. Let's give a virtual round of applause to Ms. Eileen Claire Francisco together with Mr. Anthony James Vismanos. The floor is yours, Ms. Francisco and Mr. Vismanos.
Thank you very much, Mama Maricar and Ma'am Carmen. So let me just share my screen for us to start the presentation. All right. Just confirm, are you able to see my screen right now? Ma'am Carmen, Ma'am Maricar?
Yes, sir, AJ.
Thank you very much. So I'll be starting now. Our presentation is entitled Protect Yourself Against Food Adulteration and Fraud. This is a special topic in food protection and defense. So what will be the topic all about? First, what is food adulteration? Do you think that you're a victim of food adulteration? Let's investigate on that. Second, what is food fraud? Do you think you have been scammed by your food? Let's look into it. And consumer food protection. What are the ways that you can protect yourself against food adulteration and fraud? We will help you with that. All right, first case in point. Okay, let me just turn on my audio for a while now. Okay. We'll be sharing to you some video clips about food adulteration and fraud. Okay. So first case in point here is a news article from GMA News in the year 2019, where several people died and several others became sick because of methanol poisoning from lambanog. Let's watch.
Kumpirmado ng sobra-sobrang methanol ang nakapatay sa 11 uminom ng lambanog sa Rizal, Laguna. Sa 7 samples ng lambanog na nakuha ng Food and Drug Administration o FDA sa Ray Lambanong, Emma Lambanog at Orlando Mapastor, lumalabas na 5 ang nagpositibo sa mataas na level ng methanol. 11.4 hanggang 18.2% ng methanol ang nakita sa mga ito. Sadyang mataas na dapat sana'y 1% lang na antas ng methanol sa lambanog. Ayon pa sa FDA, pwede nang ikamatay ng tao ang pag-inom ng kahit 30 milliliters ng methanol. Nagiging formic acid at formaldehyde o di kaya'y formalin ito sa ating atay. Sa ngayon, may 3 pang pasyenteng nakainom ng lambanog na naka-admit sa East Avenue Medical Center habang 49 naman sa Philippine General Hospital.
Nakakatakot, no? Grabe, maraming namatay dahil sa methanol na present sa ating lambanog. Second case in point for food fraud is a case again in 2019 reported by ABS-CBN, TV Patrol, where there are cases of fake acetic acid or suka in the Philippine market. Let's watch.
Sa 17 klase ng ulam sa karinderya ni Aling Lourdes, 4 ang ginamitan ng suka. Ilang customer din ang gumagamit ng suka bilang sausawan, kaya naman napakahalaga para sa kanya ng pampalasang ito.
Hindi kami po nabili ng naka-return. Basta laging nakagalon.
Nakahinga siya ng maluwag nang malaman na ang tinatangkilik niyang brand ay hindi kasama sa listahan ng mga napag-alamang gumagamit ng synthetic acetic acid o peking suka. Matapos isa-ilalim sa lab test ang 39 na brand ng suka, 5 sa mga ito kumpirmadong synthetic acetic acid. Ayon kay FDA OIC Eric Domingo, ang synthetic acetic acid ay walang negatibong epekto sa katawan pero di nangangahulugan na pwede na itong gamitin at ibenta ng mga manufacturer.
Fake siya na suka at hindi siya dapat na binibenta. Sa Philippines kasi ang description natin ng vinegar, it has to be acetic acid coming from naturally fermented products.
Bago pa man ilabas ng FDA ang listahan ng mga brand, sinabi ni Domingo na sinubukan na nilang kausapin ang manufacturer ng mga ito.
Nakakagulat din naman na a big company or yun nga medyo mga widely distributed products naman itong ilan sa kanila talagang gumagamit ng synthetic acetic acid.
Ayon kay Domingo, posibleng madagdagan pa ang mga brands sa listahan ng peking suka. Kaya may payo siya sa mga manufacturer.
Mag-voluntary pull out nung kanilang produkto. Pagkatapos noon, papa-explain natin sa kanila kung ano nangyari at bakit sila gumagamit ng synthetic acetic acid. May regulatory disciplinary actions din naman tayo.
Kinuna namin ang reaksyon ng Tentay Food Sauces Incorporated pero hanggang ngayon ay di pa sila nagbibigay ng opisyal na pahayag. Sinusubukan din namin kontakin ang manufacturers ng Sure by King Vinegar at Chef's Flavor Vinegar. Rafael Bossano, ABS-CBN News.
See, we are not even sure if our vinegar that we're buying from the market is fraudulent or real vinegar. So with those cases, did any of those bother you? Let's discuss how you can protect yourself against possible food fraud and adulteration. So before we start anything else, let us define what food adulteration is. So food adulteration is a deliberate act or sinadya itong paglalagay ng mga substances in food that is deleterious or dangerous to human health. Sometimes may mga ingredients tayo na considered grass or generally regarded as safe, pero yung limits or the amount it has in our food is above acceptable levels. Food adulteration also encompasses deliberate subjection or sinasadyang paglagay ng food natin in ionizing radiation that are above the acceptable levels. So there are actually two kinds of food adulteration. Number one is the economically motivated adulteration. It is the form of food fraud where it is intentionally adding or substituting ingredients that are dangerous to human health. Aside from substitution or addition of those ingredients, ito yung paglalagay ng mga products of ingredients that are above acceptable levels. The second one is what we call intentional contamination or terrorism. It is the act of food adulteration that leads to the reduction or reducing the quality of the food safety, and food quality. Sometimes these are terroristic in nature. Sometimes those adulteration are done to damage the name or the reputation of a brand. So let us see some cases in point of economically motivated adulteration. So in 2008, very popular itong issue na to. Several brands of milk for infants and children were found to have melamine. Melamine is, as you can see here on the left, is a molecule that has rich nitrogen content. Versus the one on the right, it is what you call an amino acid monomer. So you can see here, melamine has 3 free nitrogen, whereas an amino acid molecule has only 1 free nitrogen. Therefore, if you analyze milk containing melamine, it will yield higher protein as compared to a simple amino acid-based milk. However, that melamine will actually cause kidney stones or kidney failure, especially for children and infants. Second case in point naman for intentional contamination. This is a case in Texas, year 2019, where a woman was found to be videotaping herself, na dinidilaan or licking the top of the ice cream containers and putting the ice cream tubs back in the fridge. Let's watch the news clip.
All right, so we're back on this Saturday morning with the latest on the cold case mystery that's making ice cream, you scream, we all Yeah.
Ugh, it all went down in the freezer aisle of a Texas Walmart. Now, police are saying they've ID'd a suspect, and the possible charges are no joke. Dylan is in the orange room with the scoop.
I like what you did there.
Yeah, guys, this is pretty gross. So for those of you who have no clue what we're talking about, take a look.
Lick it, lick it. Oh, you foul. Put it back. Put it back. Put it back. Put it back. Oh, you.
Okay, so this now viral video shows a young woman opening a new carton of ice cream, taking a lick, and putting it back on the supermarket shelf. After being posted to Twitter earlier this week, that video now has more than 12 million views. And of course, it's earned the disgust of social media with...
See, nakakainis, nakakadiri, nakakainis ng todo-todo. Well, in fact, as you can see the photos above, another person here is doing the same, where he is poking his finger into the ice cream tub and putting the ice cream back into the shelves. See, this is a case of intentional contamination where for clout, for Twitter views, they were doing this obnoxious stuff just to get their social media clout. For food fraud, I will hand you over to Miss Eileen to discuss more of it further. Eileen, take it away.
Thank you very much, Sir AJ. Food fraud is sometimes called economically motivated adulteration. Food fraud is intentionally deceiving consumers. Dinadaya kayo, increasing the apparent value of the product by reducing its cost. Isang malaking halimbawa nito ay yung kwento ng mga bata na dinagdagan yung gatas ay dinagdagan ng tubig para lang mas dumami yung kita niya hanggang sa nawala na siya ng mabibentahan dahil ayaw na nila yung gatas niya. It's economically driven and the motivation is to gain more money. Gusto nilang kumita ng mas marami. May mga different kinds there are different kinds of food fraud. Isang halimbawa, just like what we told earlier, is dilution. It's the act of mixing a commodity with a lower value. Gaya ng honey. Nakabili ka na ba ng honey na parang may halong asukal? Honey added with corn syrup or sugar is considered adulterated under the kind of dilution. Or it can be substitution, replacing sunflower oil with mineral oil. Or concealment, tinatago nila yung defects ng mga ingredients. For example, poultry injected with hormones to conceal its disease. Or applying colorant on a produce or vegetable to cover its defects. There is also mislabeling and tampering. They can claim that they are just like organic, or they will change the expiration date to increase yung display time nila sa kanilang mga store, or para mas mapamahal pag sinabi nilang organic ito. It can also be unapproved enhancement, or just like the example earlier, the melamine in milk. It's not approved, it's dangerous to human health, but it was used, so it is adulteration. The use of unauthorized additive. Just like there are several food colors that is not allowed in one region or country na hindi mo dapat gagamitin. So it is still considered as adulteration or fraud. Economically motivated adulteration. Other than that, counterfeiting. Sikat ito sa pagbili ng mga online na mga produkto. They are actually claiming that their products is under a known brand. Kilala natin yung mga ito. They want their products to sell more. So they want it na makilala under the brand na kilala natin. At para makabili tayo ng mas marami. So online pack and industry packing claiming to be sourced in factory of a known popular establishment. Back to you, Sir AJ. Please share with us some tips on how we can protect ourselves against food adulteration and fraud in the wet market segment.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Eileen. Now, let us see how you can protect yourself against food adulteration and fraud when you are buying your products in the wet markets. Una sa lahat, we all buy fish in the market. Hindi masyado sa mga groceries to, but syempre, wet markets. As you can see on the left, I'll use my clicker here. You can see that in fresh fish, the eyes are transparent. And you can see that the flesh is firm, the fins are intact, and the scales are clean. As compared to the smell, it's very fishy or very oceany, pero hindi siya maanta or what you call rancid. As compared to dyed fish on the right, you can see that the eyes are not anymore clear. It's slightly blurry. You can see that the fins are already not intact, or it's kind of collapsing. And you can see that the flesh is kind of as well, like not really firm, but more of squishy. And you can see that some of the dyes are already seeping outside of the fish. A case in point right here that happened early this decade, 2011, but is very prominent still being done in fish ports. Ang pagjojobos ng mga isda. It is called dyeing of the fish, where they are adding food dyes or even clothing dyes like jobos to the fish so that it may appear fresh, especially those bangus or tilapia, and even, like, for example, dalaga bukid, where they're dyeing it similar to what their natural colors are. Let's watch the clip.
Lingid sa kaalaman ng maraming Pinoy na may mas matagal ng kalokohan na ginagawa ang ilang mga tendero ng isda sa ilang fish port sa Manila. At ang pangunahing biktima ay ang mga ordinaryong mamimili. Ito ay ang pagkukulay, pagdaday o pagjojobos ng kanilang ibinebentang isda.
Of course, hindi pwede tayo maglagay ng jobos since ang jobos kasi is considered parang Thai na may halo tong formaldehyde, which is yung formalin, which is used for preservative. Now, regarding dun sa paglagay niyan, ay hindi talaga pwedeng ihalo yan sa yung ordinary yung makikita natin isda kasi considered adulteration yan ng food. So we don't allow putting or additional what we say preservatives para tumagal itong mga kaya sila nagdadagdag para tumagal yung parang buhay ng mga binebenta na, which is not allowed sa ating sanitation code.
So as you can see earlier, a case in point here, like yung batchad, meron siyang color blue na jobos. It's actually made to mimic the grayish bluish color of galunggong, tilapia, and bangus. All right. Second case, kita nyo, may chicken ako sa likod ko because I like chicken. And sometimes when I buy chicken, I have to establish if I'm buying fresh chicken or what you call a plump chicken. Fresh chicken, as you can see on the left, has a slightly fleshy pink color with no bruising or other discoloration. If you press on the chicken with your finger, it should appear springy and bouncy. And you can see that the bones are intact, it's not broken, and it holds the chicken together. Look at the one on the right. It's bigger, right? But it's actually adulterated. It's injected with water or sometimes saline or salt water. It's made to make the chicken look bigger and actually to make it heavier so that the sales will go higher. They can sell it at a higher price. But as you can see, the fatty area here is yellowish. And as you can see that the bones are not holding the chicken intact. And sometimes you can see here that the chicken is actually weeping or umiiyak siya, tumutulo yung chicken. Why? Because the injected water or saline is actually weeping out of the chicken. So for the case for pork, I will turn you over to Ma'am Eileen. Ma'am Eileen.
Thank you very much, sir. Ikaw ba ay bumibisita sa lokal na palengke? Kung ikaw ay isa sa mga ito, alam mo na malaki ang pagkakaiba ng presyo ng frozen at fresh na baboy. There is a great difference between prices of fresh and frozen pork. Marahil, a few of us will probably choose yung nakasanayan na. But sometimes we can be deceived. One way is that some of the sa mga tindera sa palengke ay tinuto nila o tinutunaw nila yung yelo at pinagmumukha nila itong fresh. Paano mo malalaman? How can we know that what we are buying is actually a fresh pork? Fresh pork should be pale pinkish gray in color, have no odor, not slimy, and firm, while frozen one is either paler in color or synthetically enhanced using a dye, is squishy, and quite sticky. Moving forward, nakatikim ka na ba ng baka na hindi baka? Horse meat, though a delicacy in many areas because of its lower value, are used sometimes to make it appear of different kinds, just like making it like a beef. Ang pinakamabilis para makita mo kung ito ay baka o karne ng kabayo ay ang kulay nito. The color of horse meat should be redder or darker in color. but it is best to have it analyzed in a laboratory if it is actually minced. Further, a not so rare occurrence in Belgium. 6 arrests were made for falsifying the passport of force meat. Analysis showed evidence of tampering with passports and microchips of animals. Plus, they have violations in registrations. Actually, they are giving the force meat a new identity. So, pinagmumukha nila ito na hindi karne ng kabayo. Pwedeng baka o iba't ibang klase gaya ng tupa. They are selling it to diverse market ng mas mataas na halaga. Further, hindi malayo sa atin, the Philippine government sees carab beef being sold online as Brazilian beef. They are disguised as Brazilian beef when in fact, it is carab beef. Remember, isang paalala para sa atin, carab beef cannot be sold as is. It should be used for further processing by the meat industry as reiterated by NMIS. Furthermore, ikaw ba ay bumibili ng gulay sa mga palengke? Ito yung madalas nating bilihin, di ba? Dahil pa konti-konti lang naman ang kailangan natin ito. Have you ever heard from your folks to watch out for kerosene smell in tomatoes? Well, they've got more creative than that. Maaring gumagamit na rin sila ng tinatawag na magic powder para matanggal ang pag-itim ng mga talong o iba pang nahiwang gulay. This magic powder is a controlled chemical substance known as sodium metabisulfite, a dangerous one when used in great amounts. The exceeding unmonitored amount of use can trigger severe sulfite reactions, especially on asthma patients. It may cause asthma-like allergy, and future exposure can cause asthma attacks with shortness of breath, wheezing, cough, and chest tightness. Not only that, but they can also use chemicals. Gaya ng sabi ko, they are more creative. On the next slide, they are using malakay cream or rhodamide B to synthetically enhance para ikaw ay maengganyo. Mas magustuhan mo na bilhin yung mga produkto nila. Now, back to you, Sir AJ, for cases of food adulteration and fraud in the dry market segment.
Thank you, Ma'am Eileen. Now, hindi lang pala limited sa produce at fresh meat ang mga adulterations. Ito available din sa mga dry markets natin tulad sa mga pansit, kanin at mga iba pang bagay. Muna, halimbawa sa ating bigas. Akala nyo bigas hindi dinadaya? Dinadaya din yan. Pero hindi yung plastic na pandaraya ha, ibang usapan yon. Tingnan natin sa kaliwa. Natural rice will not disintegrate when you are rubbing it between your fingers or when you are biting it. Natural rice will have a look of a slightly matte glass appearance with visible cotyledons. Ano yung cotyledon na yon? Tingnan nyo yung pointer ko. Meron tayong bigas dito na merong parang basag yung dulo. That cusp or basag in the rice grain is called the cotyledon. Whereas extruded rice on the right is actually very fragile and it will disintegrate when you are rubbing it between your fingers or if you're biting it. Extruded rice is opaque white or slightly off yellow. And it's actually being used from the remnants of rice in the millers. As you can see, minsan, pag bibili tayo ng mga bigas sa sako, di ba? May mga pulbo, may mga basag-basag na bigas. Those are being reprocessed and being extruded to create further reprocessed rice. Pero hindi siya natural rice. So let's share your thoughts. For this time, we will be giving 5 people that will give their answers or thoughts in the comment section, both in Facebook and YouTube, 100 peso GCash, and we will contact you via your registered email if you're the chosen winner. The question is, the Philippines exported instant noodles that were found to have high levels of ethylene, but the Philippine FDA regards it as safe. Is it really safe, or is it considered adulterated? Share your thoughts and win 100 pesos GCash. But I'll share my thoughts first. As we can see in the Philippine FDA, ang na-reject diba ay sa EU or European Union. We have different limits of acceptability of these additives such as ethylene. However, the Philippines has a higher tolerance as compared to EU or European Union where they have zero tolerance. So that is what you call trade, technical barriers to trade, where there are different countries that will have different laws in food safety. So it's safe with us because it's okay and our standards are allowing it, but EU or European Union are not allowing those levels to be present in food. What about you, Ma'am Eileen? What's your thought about this one?
Well, I guess, sir, I have the same opinion as you. Kasi I was one of the tasks that I had in my previous job is to process documents in the Philippine Food and Drugs. And one of the things that I first distinguish is the difference in the law and standards from different countries. For example, the allergens, or just like what you said earlier with the definition of the synthetic vinegar. Sabi niya, sa definition ng Pilipinas, so there is a reiteration that it's from the Philippines. So what is permitted in one country may not be allowed in another. So these gaps are crucial for us to understand the food safety and standardization in different continents in another area. Sir AJ?
Thank you very much, Ma'am Eileen. Now we're gonna wait for your comments and we will select 5 winners of 100 pesos GCash each. All right. So next will be, Ma'am Eileen, totoo ba o peke ang itlog?
Alam mo, sir, this is very nakakatakot. It's actually a study made in India. Furthermore, there is an analysis on how to check fake eggs, kung paano ma-check kung peke yung itlog na binibili nila. Ang pinakamadali dun sa explanation na binigay nila is to shake it para malaman mo kung fake ito. Gaya ng para malaman mo din kung ito ay bulok na. It's a sign if the egg is rotten. You have to, if there is movement, kung may maramdaman ka na movement dun sa itlog, then it's either fake or rotten. So, let's be careful on that. Furthermore, may isa pa. Nakabili ka na ba ng itlog na sinasabing organic tapos mabalitaan mo hindi pala? Meron sa India, there is a scheme in India that they uses dye or tea to make the egg look brown. Kasi parang nagiging notable character siya ng isang organic egg. They are actually saying it for much higher price with the claim that they are organic. At meron pang isa, sir, there is a not so common trick in selling oils. Just like gardenia extract from China, sold as saffron oil from Spain. They are also selling extra virgin olive oil. Paalala, a brief reminder for everyone, extra virgin olive oil is made of pure, cold-pressed olives, whereas regular olive is blend, including cold-pressed and processed oils. So we have to be careful on that. Now, Sir AJ, can food adulteration and fraud happen in groceries and supermarkets?
Actually, Miss Eileen, yes, it can. So hindi lang siya limited to wet markets, grocery segments in the dry markets, and even in produce. It can also happen in big supermarket chains. So let's see one case in point where there is a case of label adulteration in the year 2021. Wow, pandemic time pa nangyari ito. Let's watch the clip.
Pinasok ng NBI Task Force Against Illegal Drugs ang warehouse na ito sa San Pedro, Laguna. Nadiskubre umanong binubura ng mga empleyado ang mga expiration date sa mga delata at iba pang grocery items. Pinapalitan umano ito ng panibago mga expiration date at production date bago i-export.
Kung ano po yung sinasabi nila, yun ang pwedeng po yung sinusunod namin.
Tumangging magbigay ng pahayag ang pamunuan ng warehouse. Ayon sa investigasyon ng NBI, matagal na itong ginagawa ng kumpanya at nabawi ang kanilang makina sa panglagay ng panibagong sticker sa mga produkto. Ngayong Mayo lang din nakakuha ng lisensya na exporter-distributor ang kumpanya mula sa nauna nilang lisensya para sa cosmetics.
So the modus operandi is basically binabago nila yung expiry date, no? And then they maglalagay sila ng bagong expiration date para ma-extend yung shelf life nito.
Kinasuhan naman ng NBI ang isang opisyal at 4 na kawani ng Food and Drug Authority na nag-inspection din sa warehouse ng paglabag sa Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Ayon sa NBI, inabiso sa kanila ng FDA na wala silang nakitang violation mula sa kumpanya.
Right there and then, you could have stopped the illegal activity. But you didn't do anything. They gave these people unwarranted benefits.
Sinubukan ng news team na makuha ang panig ng FDA tungkol sa kaso pero wala pa silang binibigay na pahayag tungkol dito. Kinasuhan ng pamunuan ng kumpanya ng paglabag sa Consumer Act at Food Safety Act. Nico Bawa, ABS-CBN News.
Now you can see here that the arm of the law is being implemented. Remember during the morning session with the discussion of Ma'am Geraldine, Sir Noor, and Ma'am Lai that The Food Safety Act is very important in ensuring that we are buying and consuming safe food. As you can see here, Food Safety Act was implemented and being used to file cases against these adulterating companies. So again, as mentioned by Ma'am Geraldine earlier, this can be up to 6 years in imprisonment. So just to conclude our presentation, you have to remember that it is always important to know your food. In the recovery of our economy that was greatly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, many people, many unscrupulous people will try to hasten or gusto nila pabilisin ang return of recovery ng kanilang pagkita. Well, hindi nila maisip na ang pagtatamper ng kanilang food or pag-adulterate ng kanilang food just for economic gain will greatly affect our health. So, as consumers, we have to know our food and be aware that fake and adulterated food are present in the current market. And remember, in your food, when you are in doubt, just throw it out. Again, this is AJ Vizmanos, Master of Food Safety Management.
And this is Eileen Francisco. We thank you for participating in our talk entitled Protect Yourself Against Food Adulteration and Fraud. Thank you.
Thank you very much and keep safe.
Okay. Wow, that was knowledge overload, Sir AJ and Miss I. I can't imagine how these food frauds and adulteration be done by some people. Ang dami kong natutunan sa mga sharing ng ating resources speakers. Now, highlight here is that food fraud encompasses the deliberate and intentional substitution. What do we mean by substitution? Nagpapalit ng materyales para makamura. Kung original mong material ay mahal, yung ingredients ay mahal, papalitan ng mas mura para makamura doon sa processing ng materyales at finished product. And then that's it. So yun yung sinasabing intentional substitution. And then additional, katulad na sinabi kanina, nagdadagdag ng tubig, nagpapalit ng materyales. And then tampering or misrepresentation of food, food ingredients, or food packaging. Nagpapalit ng packaging. So yung iba, expired na, pinapalitan, ina-extend yung expiry date. And then labeling, product information, or false or misleading statements that made about the product for economic gain, all of which would greatly impact consumer health. The burden and most affected here is us, the consumer. So tayo yung nalulugi, nagbabayad tayo ng malaking halaga, pero yung kinakain natin ay dinaya lamang ng kapwa nating tao. Nakakalungkot, may mga ganong gumagawa. Okay? Your call, Ms. Maricar?
Before I share my thoughts, I would like to acknowledge muna ang ating 101 FB viewers and 65 viewers mula naman sa YouTube. And also, I would like to reiterate to all our attendees, if you have questions and clarification regarding the topic, kindly type in the chat box and later it will be discussed in the open forum. So attendees, feel free to express your ideas and queries in the chat box. Back to what have you mentioned, Ma'am Carmen, I agree with you on that. Also, if I may add, clearly, ang essential dito, yung consumer awareness. I am surprised also with the extruded rice. Commonly po on our institution, the Food and Nutrition Research Institute, we use extrusion technology to process our fortified rice, but the ingredients are made of rice flour from broken rice nga lang po. And then food grade fortificant. So it turned out 360 degrees from here, from being a food vehicle of your nutritious food product to an adulterated product. Nakakahinayang on how they use the technologies for no good. But at least, ilan ang viewers natin? We have 166 attendees. So now you know. And with that being said, I think, Ma'am Carmen, it is also much better if there are high throughput technologies to support our claims naman in identifying adulteration and food fraud.
Okay, I think Ms. Carr, our next speaker, could enlighten us on this one. We are pleased to share with you the current emerging technologies that can be utilized to identify the authenticity of food products and other ingredients. It is under Omics Cascade. That is the food metabolomics.
Sounds exciting, Ma'am Carmen, to give us further details on how to ensure that the food ingredients and other products are legitimate and safe to consume using a high throughput characterization technologies and laboratory equipment. Our last speaker is a graduate of food engineering and currently a lecturer at the College of Engineering and a former university research associate in Batangas State University with his topic entitled Food Metabolomics and Evidence in Proving Food Authenticity. Let's welcome in our virtual room, Mr. Jean Anriel Ganisa. Over to you, Engineer Ganisa.
Thank you, Ms. Maricar and Ms. Carmen, for that very kind introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. Before I start my topic for today, kindly focus your attention to the screen and let us observe and comprehend to the existing problem of food adulteration in honey industry.
Para sa mga health conscious tulad ni Edna, dapat na maging maingat at kilatising mabuti na ang binibili ay tunay at purong pulot. Dahil naglipa na ang mga peke at adulterated o may halong honey sa merkado. Sa Food Authenticity and Traceability Program ng Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Nuclear Research Institute, na pag-alamang 80% ng local brands ng honey ay adulterated pala. Patok ang honey sa mga naghahanap ng alternatibo na asukal. May mga benepisyo kasi nito sa kalusugan dahil sa antibacterial, antioxidant at anti-tumor properties nito. Pero kung hindi naman purong honey ang gamit, maaaring makasama ito sa kalusugan. Sa pagsusuri ng DOST-PNRI, 62 sa 76 local honey brands na mabibili online o sa mga pamilihan ay may 95% na C4 sugar syrup. Kahit nakasaad sa product label na pure honey ito. Payo ng eksperto, kung nasa 200 pesos hanggang 350 pesos ang presyo ng bibilhing pulot, kaduda-duda na ito. Mas madali kasing gawin ang sugar syrup at mas mababa ang gastos sa paggawa kumpara sa natural na pure honey. Umaabot kasi ng 1,000 pesos per kilogram ang authentic honey. Habang wala pang regulating body na nagbabantay sa kalidad ng lokal na honey, mas mainam para sa DOST na dumirekta sa honeybee farmers para masigurong pure honey ang mabibili. Lady Vicencio, ABS-CBN News.
After observation to the current scenario, my question is, in your own ways, how can you ensure that your product is free from adulteration? We, as consumer, can also do basic quality control to determine whether our product is adulterated or not. For the case of honey, get a glass of water and pour a tablespoon of honey to the glass of water. If your product settles at the bottom, then your honey is authentic. While on the other hand, if your honey dissolves faster, then it is adulterated. Some might also suggest that putting honey on the flame. If it does not burn or produce a crackling sound, it is adulterated. But if it burns, then it is a pure honey. Other than the traditional methods for authentication, science has discovered a lot of ways to help with this problem and use the power of human knowledge to discover other applications of scientific concept for safety and authentication. So for today, we will be talking about food metabolomics and evidence in proving food authenticity. So in this presentation, we will be talking about what is food authentication. So what are the important issues in the food industry and why do we need to ensure that our product is authentic? Number 2 is the metabolomics approach. We will determine what is food metabolomics and what are the processes involved and what are the challenges encountered in the application of this method. Number 3 is the detection technologies. What are the technologies used in the study of food metabolomics? Number 4 is food metabolomics in quality control. Dealing with the aspects of manufacturing process, let us know how food metabolomics is used in quality control. Number 5 is food metabolomics and food traceability. Let us understand how food metabolomics is used in food traceability. And then number 6 is food metabolomics in research and development. What are the innovative nutrition-related studies are done using food metabolomics, which helps ensuring the health and wellness of our general population? Come and join me and let us discover the amazing world of metabolites through food metabolomics. So let me start my discussion by giving you an overview of food authenticity issues faced in the consumer markets today. So on a survey conducted by the EURASSF, which is a notification system used in the exchange of information on identified hazards of food products, the Philippines ranked second with 37 food fraud and adulteration cases, following Thailand with 47 cases. This is due to the absence of updated information regarding food fraud and adulteration of specifically in meat and meat product. Based on their notification, this is because the food categories exported in the Philippines were notified to have unauthorized importation, lack of health certificates, and improper health documents. Another food authenticity issue which creates a warning for the global market is the issue of adulterated milk products in China in 2009. It was reported that the milk products contain melamine, a compound used in the synthesis of formaldehyde resin, was unintentionally added to infant milk products, which causes kidney and urinary tract infection for 300,000 infants and reported 6 deaths. Food fraud and adulteration is a global problem. This situation consequently impacts the economy, including the confidence of the consumer. Therefore, programs and policies should be designed in order to raise awareness to our personnel in food supply chain. With the cases of food fraud and adulteration in meat and meat products and melamine contamination in infant milk products, the local and international regulating bodies use analytical tools to better locate and characterize the intentional and economically motivated adulteration of food. With this, they have developed food authentication. So what does food authenticity do? So according to International Food Authenticity Assurance Organization, it is a technical method to validate the declared and presented product information on genuine food ingredients and sources that are verified by authority. Through food authentication, it can enable consumers to get what they pay for and increases their overall trust of the food. In addition, food and food ingredients can be accurately and appropriately represented to its target customer. So this term is contrary to the existing issue to the market today named food fraud, which deceives the consumer by providing them with lower quality foodstuff against their knowledge and will. They deliberately or intentionally replace, add, alter, or misinterpret of food and food ingredients, making a false or misleading statement in product labels used about for economic gain. Since there is a need for appropriate and reliable analytical method to ensure how food producers meet industry needs and protect public from misleading and fraudulent labeling and avoid food safety issues, one of the suggested methods for food authentication is the use of food metabolomics. But before we go deeper to the real-time use of food metabolomics in the industry, let us define its basic concept for better understanding of this method. So to define the basic concept of metabolomics, we can use the terms such as metabolite, metabolism, metabolome, and metabolomics. So a metabolite is a small molecule. So anything that is smaller than 1,500 Dalton is considered as metabolite, which is either organic or inorganic. Things like amino acids, they are building blocks of larger molecules. So these metabolites are end products or fuels of our metabolic processes. So in layman's term, ito po yung mga substances na ginawa o ginamit ng ating katawan para i-break down or pag-iwahiwalayin ang ating mga active components na nagagaling po sa ating mga pagkain. However, when we say metabolism, this is the process of interaction between metabolites and enzymes. This process break down or synthesize our molecules to form metabolite. In simple terms, ito po yung proseso na ginagawa ng ating katawan para pag-iwahiwalayin po ang ating mga metabolites. When metabolites are formed, they can be classified as primary metabolites, which can be used for energy metabolism, or secondary metabolites, which can be used for energy production. Example po ng ating primary metabolites ay ang ating mga amino acids, organic acids, vitamins, and enzyme. On the other hand naman po, ang example po ng ating secondary metabolites ay ang mga pigments, essential oils, lectins, and polymeric substances like cellulose and gum. Now, when we have the complete set of metabolites, this is called as metabolome. They are forming different pathways, and take note that our metabolome is time sensitive. So metabolome po ang tawag sa collection ng ating metabolites sa ating cell, tissue, or biological sample. So, for example po, kapag kumain po ako ng piece of cookie, ang aking pong body's metabolite ay nagbabago sa pagkain ko po ng piece ng cookie na ito. So, which will contribute to body's processes such as energy production. Now, when we understand the basic concept, the study of metabolites is called metabolomics. Metabolomics is the scientific and methodological technique that studies metabolite concentrations and interactions in organic entities. When we say metabolite concentrations, these are biosystems involved in microorganisms, plants, animals, and humans, and even in our food samples. And when we say interactions in organic entities, these are underlying biochemical activities occurring in cells, tissues, organs, and organisms. Food metabolomics is part of the omic cascade, an important area of discipline in systems biology. The use of omics technology is highly beneficial for understanding its basic concepts. So the omic cascade is divided into 4 parts, namely genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, and metabolomics. So for genomics, it produces its byproduct DNA, which can only tell us what is possible or what can happen. And when we express this DNA, we can obtain this product mRNA, which will be formed, and this end product of transcriptomics says what appears to be happening in our body. Now, when we express this RNA, we can obtain the product of proteomics, protein, which tells us what makes this happen. And now when we go downstream and when we express these proteins to metabolites, the study of metabolomics can tell us what can happen and is happening. After we have known the basic concept, let us now understand what is really metabolomics is all about, how metabolomics is used in food industry. To define, food metabolomics involves the application of metabolomics in food resources, production, and processing, as well as in human diet. In the study of food metabolomics, our goal is to obtain the extract of our product to identify the food identity marker, which can serve as the biological fingerprint or simply unique evidence for identifying its authenticity, nutritional quality, and can be applied in the identification of adulteration in our foods. As there are a lot of applications of food metabolomics in food industry, let us understand how this works. So let me take a study from Indonesia, which they have tested their native product, Asian palm civet coffee, and we will use it to describe the processes involved in food metabolomics. So after the sample has been collected, it will undergo the process of extraction. So in the case of coffee, it will be grinded and roasted to obtain its liquid sample. This liquid sample will be pre-treated with various chemical reagents in order to prepare our sample for analysis. In this study, they have subjected the coffee sample to gas chromatography, mass spectroscopy to identify the metabolites present in this coffee sample. Then after the process of identification, results will be validated through the use of various statistical tools to select the discrimination marker candidates for authentication of the coffee product. And based on the results of their study, they have identified and establish a rapid, reliable, and cost-effective analysis for metabolite fingerprinting can be actualized as an alternative method for coffee authenticity screening in our food industries. So after we have identified how metabolomics works, the metabolomics can be further divided into 2 categories depending on the type of analysis. So we do have the so-called untargeted metabolomics and targeted metabolomics. So sa untargeted metabolomics po, given na po tayo ng sample, and ang goal po natin is to determine all the unknown detectable analytes or molecules na present po sa ating sample. So this is considered as a complex process since we are discovering a new type of metabolite or non-existent to our metabolomic databases provided. Kasi internationally po, meron po tayong binuong database na naglalaman po ng mga metabolites na makikita po natin sa isang specific sample. On the other hand, Targeted metabolomics tests for the chemical attributes of metabolites before data acquisition occur. Dito po, alam na natin yung metabolite. Hahanapin na lang po natin ito kung present po ba ito doon sa ating given sample for analysis. So how long does it take for food metabolomic analysis? So herein I have selected the specific rapid techniques for extraction, separation, and detection, and in total, a metabolomic analysis will last about 56 minutes. Now, after we have known the real-time concept of food metabolomics and how it is used in food industries, let me give you some of the research and development efforts done by our Filipino researcher using food metabolomics as a method for food authenticity. So the first research is the study of Molino et al. On 2021 on metabolomic analysis of flavor compound from Philippine coffee. This is a R&D project from University of the Philippines, Diliman. This study is a detailed understanding of phytochemistry of Philippine garlic could give insight on its sensory attributes and nutritional benefits. Results of this study suggested that Philippine garlic has definitive comparison to imported garlic cultivars, in which principal component analysis showed that yung peptide components of local garlic really differ, which distinct separation across our imported varieties. Second is the study of metabolomic fingerprint of Philippine coffee using mass spectroscopy to identify its geographical and varietal classification. This is a collaborative research and development project from University of Santo Tomas and University of Modena and Rio of Italy. So the general aim of the project is the characterization of Philippine coffee and safeguard the authenticity in both forms, standard and civet coffee. Through this study, they have identified the key volatile metabolites responsible for classification of Arabica and Robusta coffee. The achieved results suggest that the overall variety and region are very specific. The findings revealed that the composition of volatile metabolites in coffee can provide significant information on the authenticity like other non-volatile markers. And isa rin po sa mga R&D efforts na ginawa ng Philippines ay ang study ng DOST-PNRI regarding sa authenticity testing and fingerprinting of Philippine honey using stable isotope analysis. So ginamit po nila ang isotope analysis dahil na sa issue po ng mga naglipa ng C4 sugar syrup na lumabas sa ating market. Pag sinabi po natin mga C4 sugar syrups, ito po yung mga syrups na nagagaling po from our sugar cane and corn. So ginawa po nila ito para daw mas mapababa ang production cost at mas mapataas ang kanilang kita. Ngunit nalaman po sa pag-aaral na ito po ay mapanganib dahil sa halip po na makuha natin yung benepisyo na binibigay po ng honey ay nadadaya na po tayo sa mga naglipa ng adulterated honey products sa merkado. Isa rin sa mahalagang kontribusyon ng PNRI sa pagdetermine ng authenticity ay ang kanilang proposed revision ng authentic standards ng ating Philippine honey. Dahil dito, mas na-improve po nila ang pagtingin sa tunay na authenticity ng ating mga honey syrups na inilalabas po natin sa market. So, while we conduct the analysis of food metabolomics, there are certain challenges we can encounter. So first one is the sensitivity of metabolites in existing environment. So metabolome samples of our food product are very sensitive. With the presence of oxygen, light, and various temperatures, significant problems may arise. Thus, proper handling and storage must be ensured when we are working in the laboratory for the assessments of our food samples. Second is the choice of instrument use. So metabolites also require different instruments to identify the required compound in complex mixtures based on their nature and stability. The choice of which platform can be very difficult because no instrument could disclose the entire metabolome. This is because the chemical constitutions of metabolites are heterogeneous, meaning they are diverse and require a specific instrument, and each instrument has its own unique analytical restriction. And number three, the cost of analytical instrument. And alongside with the complexity of the techniques, the cost for analysis of the product will be deemed costly, and we need appropriate funds to ensure its sustainability if we are doing it on a routine basis. So after we have known the basic concept of food metabolomics, let us now identify the common instruments and technologies used for detection. So first on our list is the high performance liquid chromatography, or we all known as HPLC. This is used for food authentication. Its mechanism uses separation, detection, and quantification techniques to determine the ingredients present in mixture. As per application, this is commonly used to identify and monitor the authenticity of bioorganic compounds of our fruit products. Next technology that can be used for food metabolomics is the Fourier infrared spectroscopy, or FTIR. This is most widely used for screening method for food fraud and authentication. Its advantages is quick, non-destructive, cost, and time effective. Another technology that can be used for analysis for food metabolomics is the nuclear magnetic resonance. This is used to identify the metabolites in the various food products. It has easy sample preparation, has a very responsive and high-performance technology, but its downfalls are it's time-consuming and costly and sometimes challenging. Now, we proceed on how food metabolomics is used in food authentication process in specific types of products. So for meat or fish or seafood products, it is done through the characterization of potential biomarkers, which are indicators of the meat quality. So in this product, we also consider the feed system and meat handling as it affects the metabolite concentration of our samples. Common technology used for analysis are mass spectroscopy, nuclear magnetic resonance, and Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy. In application of food metabolomics, it has been used to identify the fraud scandal in European countries, or we all known as the horse meat scandal in 2013. So in this study, the Food Safety Authority of Ireland tested a range of cheap frozen beef burgers and ready meals in their supermarket. They found out that the horse DNA was present in over 1/3 of beef burger samples and pig in 85% of them. One of the beef burger sample in the store turned out to have 29% horse meat instead of beef. So why is it a concern for them? So according to the study, horse meat is unfit for consumption because of the uncontrolled administration of hundreds of dangerous drugs and other substances to horses before slaughter. So according to some reports, horses are routinely treated with anti-inflammatory drug called as phenylbutazone, or bute, and bute is banned from human food chain because in some rare cases, it can cause potentially life-threatening illness such as aplastic anemia or bone marrow failure. This is an issue because they have adulterated the meat product and replaced processed meat products into horse meat without knowing it will cause adverse effects in humans too. This was also mentioned by my colleagues, Ma'am Eileen and Sir AJ, from their previous discussion on food fraud and adulteration. Since the feed eaten by animals really matter as it affects the metabolite concentration of our food samples, it is vital to check it before we select and undergo into food processing. Now, in the case of milk and dairy products, food metabolomics is used in the assessment of milk trace or its chemical composition as an evidence to detect if the product is adulterated or not. By understanding nutritional or quality characteristics, we can simply find the markers that contribute to our milk composition. So in the study of profiling with the nutritional aspects of milk metabolites and application aimed at connecting metabolites with different technical qualities of milk, according to this study, the metabolite differences were identified using non-targeted nuclear magnetic resonance and liquid chromatography mass spectroscopy. They have classified the different types of milk coming from the different animals. Based on the results of the study, the Jersey cow, goat, buffalo, and yak displayed a similar metabolic pathways, while the non-ruminant animals such as horse and camel have similar unsaturated fatty acid biosynthesis pathways. While in the case of fruit and vegetable product, our goal is to target the specific adulteration activities through the use of phytoconstituents in fingerprinting analysis. In this, we can investigate the variations that has been done in the processing of our agricultural systems. In application, food metabolomics is used for ensuring the authenticity of mangosteen, palm fruit, and lettuce, which uses gas chromatography for analysis. The effort was for this study was due to the drive of proving the purity of fruit juices obtained from its raw materials coming from the agricultural produces. So this ensures that the delivered raw materials for production are authentic and the right quality is obtained. Nevertheless, high-performance liquid chromatography or HPLC has been used to detect sugar compounds in palm fruit to understand the nutritional properties of the different fruits and to identify geographical origin of our garlics. And on the other hand, the above-mentioned studies, food metabolomics can be also used in food safety control. So first is food metabolomics can be applied to the detection of microbial contamination. Through food metabolomics, they have identified mass of microbial biomarkers involving different levels of microbial contamination, which can show a great potential in the rapid and reliable detection of microbial contamination during the early stages. Another one is food metabolomics can be used to detect the microbial toxins present in our food sample. Mass spectroscopy could profile related to microbial contamination. So in this way, we can guarantee food safety even at the earliest stage. Other applications of metabolomics for food safety control are, first one is the detection of chemical contaminants. So metabolomics could quantitatively and sensitively detect the diverse groups of cyanobiotics in the different food matrices in just one run. Also, it can be used to detect veterinary drug residues, as I have mentioned earlier. So metabolomics has been developed to control the illegitimate uses of unknown drugs or mixtures of veterinary drug residues in animals such as cattle by tracking the changes of metabolites in their biological tissues. Lastly, metabolomics can be also used to detect pesticide residues. With the high sensitivity and reproducibility of our metabolite, it can rapidly determine and trace the residues of pesticides in which they have described the alterations in the serum metabolome associated with high and low pesticide residue intake from our fruits and vegetables. So, in summary, food metabolomics and quality control can be used to assess our food quality by going downstream using our metabolite concentration. We can identify the factors that have affected the quality of our produced goods. Other uses are assessment of food quality using fingerprinting. So, these food biomarkers will dictate the chemical composition and taste quality analysis of foods and beverages product. In terms of evaluation of food authenticity, metabolomics-based approaches could complement the existing methodologies to effectively determine the discrimination potential between adulterated and authentic foods to trace geographical origin. And lastly, to protect the consumer right, it is important to assess the identified addition of GM foods or food ingredients into food supply chain by evaluating the risk assessment of novel foods using the metabolomic technologies. Apart from quality control, metabolomics can be used to food traceability. In relation to the topic discussed by Ms. Kim a while ago, so food traceability lives in the concept of our entities in food chain should be identified for quality and safety purposes. In application of food metabolomic, it can be applied through the use of non-targeted analysis. Using non-targeted analysis, this will assess the metabolic profiles of our food samples during food processing. Other applications may include determination of the effect of processing conditions on the mechanism of molecular composition of food, understanding methods of improper storage, which affect the molecular makeup of our food. Also, the development and application of the mass spectroscopy strategies is one of the great important for food industry since they offer excellent possibilities not only to study changes of metabolic profiles during production step, but also to select the compounds which detect the markers for deterioration. So as we understand the metabolic concentrations of our food sample, this gives us an access to know what foods can aid to maintain the wellness of our health. Now we will move forward in the application of food metabolomics in nutritional research. So recently, the University of San Agustin in partnership with Del Monte conducted a study to discovered the metabolite compound of pineapple that induce cholesterol-lowering effects and lipase activity. And according to Dr. Saludes, the crude extract of pineapple inhibits HMG-CoA reductase, an enzyme in metabonate pathway that produces cholesterol. In simpler terms, pineapple prevents absorption of dietary fat. Based on his study, one slice of pineapple will do to get this beneficial effect. And in terms of variety, research is still ongoing to identify which variety could produce metabolites need for inhibition of this HMG-CoA reductase enzyme. As per recommendation, the public is reminded that pineapple will not be a replacement for prescription medicine, but it says that eating pineapple in everyday basis may prevent these problems and improve the health and well-being of the consumer. Another study conducted for nutritional research is the study of in vitro anti-diabetic effect of Montilla calabura leaves extract, we all known as aratilis. So in this study, they have developed a potential source of bioactive compound for diabetic treatment. These studies suggest that with the incorporation of freeze-drying method, aratilis leaves when extracted with 50% ethanol can play a significant role as a potential for the development of naturally derived herbal medicine components that not only help to inhibit diabetes-related complications, but also impedes the toxic effects of synthetic anti-diabetic drugs. So in summary, food metabolomics as a method to detect food fraud and adulteration will be a part of action towards economic recovery as it offers a rapid and reliable identification of biomarkers as evidence in proving our food authenticity. We can lessen these fraudulent cases and will encourage our regulatory agencies to create policies and solutions through these continuous improvements in food analysis. With food metabolomics as a method, we can ensure the safe and quality delivery of our goods. And using it as a tool will encourage our food industry to adopt this method to improve the process of authenticity and consequently will provide more opportunities for product development and innovation. So that ends my presentation, and I would like to leave you with an annotated quote from Gregory Stock that food metabolomics is like your business plan. We are seizing the evolutionary history to move fast forward towards the record-breaking jump. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Engineer Denisa, for your insightful discussion and another body of knowledge that we have gained, though it is new to us, no, and slightly hard to understand, especially for first-timers. Hence, I think nakuha naman natin yung context in which he gave us the potential of this emerging food metabolomics technique that can be utilized for food authentication purposes. What struck me the most, Ma'am Carmen, is yung application natin ng horse meat in food products, which is also reiterated in the previous discussion of Mr. Vismanos and Ms. Francisco. Ang apprehension ko lang sa application nitong food metabolomics is do you think ba yung mga third world country like us, are we capable of this endeavor, especially due to the budget constraints since $1 million nga ang mga equipment na gamit natin dito. Nonetheless, I think the omics has a lot of potential applications, Sir Jean, to determine yung authenticity of food products. I think also yung first topic natin from the AM session, which is discuss yung role ng FDO, papunta tayo hanggang traceability, papunta ngayon sa food authentication. It constitutes yung inseparable parts ng food safety and quality, which I think, Ma'am Carmen, medyo mahaba na. If you could agree on me on this, that the following factors coincide for further economic development of every nation. Not only that yung food fraud, it poses yung mga health risks if unidentified na yung hazard natin or mga hazardous materials na na-add dun sa food product natin, it also threaten yung integrity nung lumalawak pa nating industrial food products. How about you, Ma'am Carmen?
Okay. Miss Car, ang haba nun, ha? You know what, no? What retains to my mind is the checking of pure honey and adulterated one. Because I regularly use honey in my morning ginger. So, ginger tea ang iniinom ko sa morning. Putting a flame on honey sample would determine which is which. This I know is the traditional way of testing which our elders are doing. So siguro maraming makaka-relate sa akin kung may mga nakikinig na elders dito, no? Many of us, I think, can relate, but now applying food metabolomics using laboratory equipment like HPLC and IR spectro would effectively show us correct and accurate product results. Ms. Maricar, I know you know this by heart because you are a licensed chemist.
Not at all, Miss Carmen. Few of this and that lang. I think medyo madugo ang data interpretation of the omics cascade because you will need data bases such as yung retention times, yung mga accurate masses, spectra of unknown, yung sabi nga, at mga unknown, yung mga non-targeted to achieve yung reliable compound identification. Moving along, no, I think this is the end of the presentation proper and now we can officially open yung ating virtual floor for any question and clarification. Again, to all our attendees, if you have questions and other queries regarding the topic, kindly type in lang po sa ating chat box.
Okay, Ms. Carr, I'm currently reviewing our chat boxes from the YouTube and Facebook platforms. It looks like we have interesting questions coming in. Pero before I proceed with the question and answer from the speaker, I would like to take a look at the answers of the audience or the listeners on the question thrown by our speaker earlier. The question, may I remind you, the question is the recent issue about ethylene oxide in instant noodles spark a debate, or is there any really food adulteration that happened? Because despite the rejection of Europe FDA, the Philippine FDA said it is safe daw dito sa Pilipinas. So now, merong answer from the Facebook. Ang sagot niya, on the question which is said, exported for me, it's not safe. If the instant noodles is manufactured here, then we can accept it as safe. So yun ang unang sagot, Sir AJ. And then, so meron tayong GCash for this lady or a boy who thrown this question. And then another answer from the viewers. Regarding the noodles, I would like to comment po that it is safe, but still does not comply with foreign legislations from which the product is exported to. It can still be said that the manufacturer's intention to treat the raw materials with a chemical is not economically driven, meaning it is not adulterated, as it is used to sterilize some of the ingredients. It may advise that consumers shall be reminded of proper product preparation to eliminate or neutralize the chemical prior to consumption. So, what's your thought on this, Sir AJ?
Thank you, Ma'am Carmen. Regarding that comment, yes, one of the first commenter we had was he or she mentioned that the product is not safe, but if it's manufactured here, it's safe. Actually, it is safe because in the Philippines, we have what you call the Bureau of Animal and Fisheries Standards. The BAFS is actually the one dictating us or legislating us on what the more acceptable limits are for food additives and ingredients. For the case of ethylene oxide in the instant noodles, actually the case here is not really the noodles itself, but actually the packaging for the flavoring. The dehydrated vegetables there was the one treated by ethylene oxide. But in the Philippines, we have what you call the product standards for the use of ethylene oxide as a sterilization agent. But for EU or the European Union, they have what you call a zero tolerance policy. Even a small trace of ethylene oxide will be treated as a contaminant or a non-complying product. So it's actually what we call a technical barrier to trade. So a technical barrier to trade is when two countries have different limits or acceptability standards for products. So those two countries have barriers to trade. So if one country has like they're putting up a wall for having trade just because of food safety standards. So the EU is putting up this wall for the Philippines to freely trade our products just because of very very vague concepts of food safety delivery. So it's very questionable, but I believe the World Trade Organization is making ways for these kinds of trade barriers to be alleviated. Ma'am Eileen, do you have any thoughts about that?
I guess, sir, based on the opinions of our listeners, because it's just as we have asked this, we respect all your opinions, but you see, we have standards and laws in the Philippines and in different countries that you cannot directly compare. So my thoughts on that is that if you are processing your item, just like one of our listeners said, in the country, then you have to abide to the standards required in our country. And if you are processing it under European standards, then you have to abide on them. Thus, it depends on where you are going to sell your produce. So, I guess, kailangan pag-isipan mo, saan mo gustong ibenta yung produkto mo. Kung ito ay pang-export, ilista mo kung ano yung mga requirements nila. At kung ito ay para lang naman dito sa Pilipinas, ilista mo din yung mga requirements na ito kasi ito yung magiging basehan mo kung ano ang dapat mong sundin bilang standard ng iyong produkto.
Okay. Loud and clear. And then, Ms. Carr, there is a question directly to Sir Gian from the Cavite State University. Okay, I will read it. What possible product, this question goes to Sir Gian. What possible product would you subject to metabolomics and why?
Thank you, Ma'am Carmen, for that question. So, para po sa akin, kung ako mamimili po ng product na isa-subject ko po through metabolomic analysis is yung ating po mga Philippine rice. Kasi rice is considered as our staple food in our country. And syempre, ito po ay parte na ng diet ng ating mga Filipinos. Kaya kailangan po talaga natin na ma-improve yung authenticity ng ating mga products na ito. And dahil nga po, nag-i-export din po tayo sa ibang bansa, syempre yung quality na kinakailangan po na napoproduce natin dito is tama at yung needed po talaga.
Okay, I hope nasagot po ng maayos ni Sir Kian ang tanong ng ating audience. And then the next question is thrown to Sir AJ and Ma'am Lai. Maaari po bang malaman kung marami pa po bang nagjojobos ng isda ngayong 2022?
Yes, to answer that, Ma'am Carmen, yes po, marami pa rin po nagjojobo sa atin. At ang pinakatalamak dito sa Pilipinas ay ang pagjojobos ng color blue, color black or gray, at color orange or yellow. Para saan yung blue? Para sa mga blue-colored fishes natin. Tuna, tangige, galunggong, tamban. Tapos yung grayish naman or yung parang diluted black na jobos, ginagamit sa mga bangus, tilapia, asuos. And then yung ating mga yellow or orange na jobos, ginagamit naman nila para sa mga dalagang bukid, lapu-lapu, yung mga yellow-orange colored na mga isda. Very prominent po ang pagdojobos even sa panahong ito. Bakit? Kasi una sa lahat, ang dahilan ng mga ating fisher folks or ating mga nasa fish ports ay nakagawian na ito matagal na. Kaya mahirap nang tigilin ang bagay na ito. Ang sa kalungkutan lang natin ay wala tayo gaanong mga kamay o galamay na ito para tigilan ng mga ito dahil hindi talaga ito na bahagi pa ng ating mga standards sa pagjojobos. Kumbaga sa taong 2000s to 2010s bago pa lang daw ang pagdidiscover ng pagjojobos ng isda. Pero kung tayo pupunta halimbawa sa Navotas o Malabon Fish Ports o ating banda sa mga Cavite, ay kalungkutan natin masasabi na tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang pagjojobos at ang hirap na hirap din ng ating LGU at ang ating BIFAR para pigilan ito dahil minsan alam mo yun, yung tipo na nagtitimbre or they are being alerted of raids or some like inspections, they're being alerted or being timbered like it's gonna happen, so they're gonna hide or they're gonna throw away. It's easy to dispose of that liquid down the drain, so it's easy for them to hide that instance. But sometimes investigative journalists or even hidden camera reports are showing that it still happens even during 2020, the year 2020 onwards. And sadly, during pandemic, it happens even worse.
Okay, nice
Thank
one.
you, Sir AJ, for your clear answer. Again, guys, apology. I just had technical difficulties while browsing from your questions. I saw one Ma'am Carmen from the FB Live. Sabi niya, hello po, can we still complain or sue yung mga person where we bought the fraudulent or yung mga adulterated food even after eating it? Tsaka lang po kasi namin nalaman na adulterated na yung food kung kailan nalasahan na kasi sobrang kakaiba na po yung lasa. What can you say about this, Ma'am Francisco and Sir Vispan?
I'll answer first, and then I'll hand it over to Ma'am Eileen. First, yes, it is under the Consumer Act of the Philippines that you can still complain as long as you have viable evidence. So kahit sabihin natin nakain mo na yung produkto or nabawasan mo na siya, as long as you have at least even like a grain of material that remains from your food, you can still report it. In the year 2006, if I'm not mistaken, there was a case of rat or vermin, daga, bubwit na pumasok sa lata ng sardinas. I would not mention the brand, but it happened in the year 2006. It was even reported by several news agencies, even a news agency on TV. So even if they have opened it and they actually have eaten some of the fish or the sardines inside the can, it's the last thing that they have discovered when eating or opening the can. So what they have done is just to retain that piece of rat and the sauce in the can itself so that they can trace the batch code, and they were still able to report that to DTI. For that case, DTI was able to let PGH, Center for National Health Institute, NHI, to have it analyzed and check if it's still dangerous or whatever. It was found that it was not really dangerous because the rat was technically thermally processed. It was sterile. So even if you have eaten the sardine product, it's safe for consumption. But of course, it's a physical hazard. It has bones, it has hair that is not preventable or not even edible. So it's a hazard, but still biologically, it won't give you any disease or any illness, but still it's disgusting. So it's what's nice that DTI was able to act on it despite them, the consumers, able to eat the fish products. And as we can see, you still have the remnants of the rat as an evidence for you to report that. But it still depends. On that time, it was DTI, but for now, if it's processed, according to our session earlier, if it's a processed food, you should report it to FDA. But if it's raw product, for example, it's fish or vegetables, report it to Department of Agriculture. So you can use your channels, or you can actually, the first thing you can actually approach to is your city health office. So it's the LGU who can refer you to the right office that can act on your complaint, and of course, talk to the manufacturer and see what actions can be done to remedy the situation. Ma'am Eileen, any thoughts?
Yes, sir. Adding to that, a reminder that I read in the Department of Health, it is very important, napaka-importante na pag natatikman mo na parang may kakaiba, huwag mo nang ubusin. Kailangan may matitirang ebidensya, gaya ni sabi ni Sir AJ kanina, there should be an evidence that the product is actually not good anymore. And just like, I just want to reiterate, gaya nung sinabi ni Sir AJ kanina, that if your product is processed, it should be reported under FDA. Basta po na proseso yan sa isang manufacturing company, ito po ay i-report sa FDA. Pero sa kabilang banda naman po, kung ito po ay gaya nung mga mami kanina na nilalako sa mga paligid, o kaya naman yung mga quick-quicks na binibili natin sa gilid-gilid lang, it can be reported sa city health natin, sa local governing bodies ng ating nasasakupan.
And to add lang, please, as a favor for everyone, please do not obnoxiously post those instances on your social media accounts. Kasi sometimes those are unverifiable, and sometimes that can be done like as a planted evidence. We are not sure. So let's please do not post everything too quickly on social media. Contact the right person, contact the right office for you to have an action to those cases of adulteration and fraud, and even other food safety concerns.
Oo, sir, no, mamaya akala lang pala nila yun, tapos hindi pala food adulterated yung pagkain. Mukha lang palang kakaiba yung itsura.
That's correct, ma'am. Kaya dapat ito ay investigated properly by our officials in the proper right government institutions and our FSRAs. Hindi social media ang sagot sa ating mga tanong. Okay?
Thank you, Service Manos and Ma'am Eileen. Another question referring to kaninang na-mention nyo na dapat mag-report kami sa LGU and sa mga FDA agency. May question dito from FB, how strict is our FDA agency in checking in implementing the law for this kind of issues po?
Okay, I'll answer first again. Eileen, I'll hand it to you afterwards. Number one, as you can see, one of our clips in our presentation earlier was FDA they're able to determine or investigate on an action na binabago or tinatamper ang kanilang mga expiration dates. So that is one of the just random audits of our FDA para makita if we are really complying or yun nga, may pagbabago or tinatamper pala yung mga produkto nila. But one of the things that we are responsible of sa atin as consumers is also to be cautious and to report. Because sometimes, as we all know, hindi naman talaga routine ng FDA ang mag-monitor. It will only act on reports or any intel that goes within them. So kung walang nag-report, then walang iimbestigahan. Ang LGU natin, of course, they're also doing their inspections sa kanilang city sanitation or any other concerns regarding city health. But again, we have limited capacity to do audits or to do inspections on all the food manufacturers, especially the micro and small scale industries. So what we can do to help our government is us ourselves be cautious and be informed, so that if we see something wrong, we can do our reporting, then they can do their own investigation, and then we'll know if the investigation turns out if it's adulterated or fraudulent. Ma'am Eileen, how about you?
Yes, that's true, sir. Also, it should be reminded that we have different laws and compliances in our country. We cannot compare the strictness of one agency from another country. So that is right, no sir? Kailangan tayo din bilang consumers as part of the food chain, or are you a seller, a part of the MSME, gagawin mo din yung nauukol na trabaho mo. Sabi kanina, everyone is responsible. Hindi po nilagay ng FDA ang mga website nila kung paano kayo magbe-verify kung hindi naman po natin ito gagamitin. It was shared to every single one of us for us to learn if our products are safe and if it is safe to consume. Gaya po nung sinare kanina ng grupo nila Ma'am Geraldine, that meron po na mga reports ang FDA na mga hindi po recorded sa kanila na mga items na nabibenta sa mga market. Meron po silang mga reports na makikita natin on their website. So maging alert din po tayo. Let's be discerning sa lahat po ng ating binibiling mga produkto.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Francisco. If I may ask lang po, medyo curious lang ako. For both of you po, did you experience food fraud in your locality? Kindly share naman po ng inyong experience and tips kung paano po nyo po naiwasan ito or maiiwasan din sana namin. Thank you.
Eileen, you can go first and then answer after you.
All right. Actually, one of the things that you shared earlier is an experience, yung pagbebenta ng mga karne na actually ito ay frozen. Tapos, tinoto nila, sinasawsaw sa tubig at binibenta bilang fresh. Dinadagdagan nila ng tubo para mas madami yung kita nila. So, it was actually an experience sa part ko. Kaya, medyo mag-ingat tayo at maging mapili kasi minsan hindi mo alam yung karne na pala na ito ay hindi na pala okay. So, ang isa sa mga importanteng gawin natin, yung itatouch mo siya, titignan mo talaga kung firm pa yung karne. Minsan kasi pag bagong sawsaw, hindi mo siya maamoy agad. Pero titignan mo kung firm pa yung karne. Pag talagang lumubog yung kamay mo, di ibig sabihin, yung karne ay tumagal na. Ibig sabihin, matagal na siyang nakadisplay or na-thaw na siya, tapos pinagmukha lang na frozen. So yun po yung isa sa experience ko sa aking sa area kung nasaan ako. Sir AJ?
Actually, one of the things that we are actually not aware that is a form of adulteration in food is ang pagkakalburo ng mga prutas natin. Meron, if you're familiar, di ba, ang mga mangga, mga ganyang prutas, yan ay minsan pinipitas na hilaw, medyo manibal lang, tapos kakalburuhin para huminog. They're using what you call ethylene or kalburo. Yung kalburo na yun, pinihasten niya yung paghinog ng ating mga prutas. Ang problema doon, minsan, kahit dilaw na yung prutas natin, pag kinain mo siya, yung sabi mo na asim pa din tong mangga na to. And despite how many days mo siyang ilalagay as para pahinugin or para patamisin lalo, hindi na siya tatamis. Bakit? Kasi hindi siya dumaan sa proper or correct ripening procedure ng ating mga bunga. So yun ay isang form pa rin ng adulteration. So tinitingnan natin. Ang pinaka-best way to check, for example, sa aking experience, ay pag ang mangga ninyo ay may mga brown or dark spots, yan ay pinahinog ng maayos at nasa puno. Pero kung napakalinis niya, most often than not, yun ay mga bungang kinalburo na. Yun ay isa sa mga pinakamasaklap kasi minsan ay excited tayo, ang tamis, ang dilaw ng mangga, ang ganda tingnan. Pagkagat natin ay ang asim pa pala. So let's be careful and let's watch out for products that may have been forcefully ripened.
Sir, no, parang parehas yan sa saging. If nakatikim na kayo ng saging na parang hindi matamis, walang lasa. So, I think may mga bagay na maganda lang sila sa panlabas, pero pag tinikman mo, it's actually hindi. Gaya ng sinabi ni Sir AJ kanina, sometimes we are judging the produce based on its physical appearance, but actually, mas better yung mga merong mga konting blemishes kasi mas hinog sa puno na tinatawag nila.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Francisco and Sir Resmanos. Yes, Ma'am, yes, Ma'am Carmen, over to you.
Okay.
I think you will say something.
I'm looking at another question directly to Sir Gian. Can he explain in simpler terms for our non-technical listeners how food metabolomics work?
Okay, sige po. Explain ko po kung paano po nag-work ang food metabolomic in layman's term po. So let me take again my example from my presentation. So yung coffee. So kailangan po natin gawin is first, kailangan po natin kuhanin yung extract ng ating mismong food sample or yung pagkain na ina-analyze po natin. And then after po natin makuha itong extract na ito, so lalagyan po natin ng, so ipe-prepare po natin siya dahil ang ating pong samples, ang ating mga instrument ay gumagamit po ng iba't ibang klase po na meron po itong required na concentration. So lalagyan po natin sila ng specific chemical reagents o yung mga chemical reagents po, yun po yung mga chemical na ginagamit para po mas ma-analyze po natin yung ating mga samples. And then after po, iraran po natin siya doon sa ating instrument. So katulad nga po, usually ang ginagamit po nating instrument ay yung ating NMR, yung nuclear magnetic resonance, yung atin pong ginagamit din na FTIR, Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, and HPLC. And then pag naran na po natin doon, i-analyze po natin, i-identify po natin kung targeted metabolomics po ang atin pong dinedetermine. So meron po tayong given sample, hahanapin po natin. Kapag naman po non-targeted, bali complex process po ito dahil nga po hahanapin po natin yung unknown o yung hindi po present doon sa ating sample for yung hindi po present na compound or yung hindi pa po nag-i-exist doon sa ating databases. And then after po natin makuha yung ating sample, i-undergo na po natin siya into statistical analysis para po ma-determine yung validity po ng ating mga results.
Okay, thank you, Sir Jean. I think ang gustong sabihin ni Sir Gino, mag-run ka ng certain standards mo na with authentic product na kiniklaim noon. And then meron kang adulterated product na i-run mo din dun sa high throughput instrument mo, whether you're talking about HPLC or GC or NMR. Then may mga spectra kang makukuha. And then pag tutugmain mo sila, magkakaroon ng iba't ibang retention times. So makikita mo dun, okay, dun sa another sample ko pala, wala yun. Yun yung analyte of interest ko. So possible na adulterated yung product ko. So medyo technical lang siya, but at least we have the idea naman po nun. And while browsing, no, nakakita ko ng question directed to Mr. Vismanos and Ma'am Eileen. Wait lang po, hanapin ko po. Ito, here you go po. How come po may mga products sa market na nabebenta na hindi pala registered at di alam ng FDA? I'd like to know po your point on that. Thank you po.
Hello for that question. Actually, the perfect topic to answer that is our first session in the morning. It's about the Food Safety Act 611. But just to give answer for that question, meron kasi mga product na tinatawag tayo, the category there is cottage industry products. There are certain cottage industry products that are not very much regulated by our FDA. Those are, for example, those that belongs in the micro and small scale industries. Like example, during the pandemic, there was a bloom of food product sales, di ba? Yung mga nagluluto ng number one, sushi bake, or yung mga products that those are done kitchen lang natin that we are selling, like ready to eat meals, or yung mga paluto minsan, mga pagpasko, bibingka, futubong, they are just selling online. Those are not regulated thoroughly by our FDA, number one, because hindi sila, they don't have enough capacity or knowledge for them to register their products in FDA. Second, it's not too big for you to spend the registration fees and other fees, for example, having your LTOs, having your CPRs for a product that you are selling for only 20, 30 pesos, diba? It's the quandary or the strife for people that are doing small businesses to having it registered. But for example, those industries should be governed by our city health office. Di ba, you-register ka sa barangay, sa city, kasi you are dealing with business. And kahit hindi ka man mag-deal ng FDA natin for CPR, dapat ikaw ay nag-undergo pa rin ng pag-check ng ating city health para sa sanitation permit naman. Because dapat yung kitchen natin ay minomonitor at ina-ensure na hindi siya madumi at ito ay safe for your production of food. But personally, in my opinion, if you're a very small micro industry, na bahay ka lang talaga, a CPR would not be very practical, but of course, you should have, number one, your DTI permit para na monitor din tayo ng DTI for products compliance, for consumer protection. And second, kailangan tayo ay aprobado ng ating city health sa ating sanitation permits. But for FDA, having CPR, mahirap yan, ma'am, especially na remember, in the Philippines, 98 to 99% of our food businesses belong to the what you call the small and micro scale businesses. Eileen, how about you? What do you think?
Yes, sir. I think before I give my comment, I would like to acknowledge the Ma'am Geraldine is still with us. So I would like to give her a floor to answer a part of this question so that we can enlighten our viewers. So, Ma'am Geraldine, if you may.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, AJ. I'd like to give there are no exclusions for CPR as far as FDA's regulations are concerned. All products sold in the market should have authorization from the FDA. Unfortunately, our FDA does not have that enough manpower to really regulate everything that is out there in the market. So it is good that our audience is participating in seminars like this, so they may be informed. So to our audience, we should help our government police our products in the market by not buying unregistered products. So that is my answer. All products should have CPR, or in other words, should be registered with the FDA.
Thank you, Ma'am G. In addition to that, remember there should be a delineation if your product is produced and cooked in your vicinity, or it is processed or as considered manufacturing. Remember, one of our speakers early in the morning says ignorance of the law excuses no one. So one of the major reason bakit hindi lahat ng produkto ay napaparegister dahil sa'yo. Dahil hindi ka nagpa-register ng produkto mo. It's simple as that. It's quite siguro if bago ka pa lang, medyo mahirap pagdaanan ang registration ng pagkain. Pero kung ito ay aaralin mo at gusto mo talaga na maging katanggap-tanggap yung produkto mo sa merkado, it would be best, gaya ng sinasabi sa atin kanina, tataas ang sales mo if your product is fully registered. And remember, if you are caught na yung product mo is not registered, you are obligated to submit to the authorities at marahil yung produkto na akala mo ay magiging kita mo ay magiging mawawalang bahala dahil kukumpiskahin dahil hindi nga siya rehistrado. So I think one of the major reason is because we are at fault. We don't know the law. So it is important for every single one of us to share the law. Whatever it is, kung ikaw man ay nasa locality, kung DTI permit man ang kailangan mo sa area mo, sanitary permit, health certifications, at pagdating naman sa mga process items sa FDA, kailangan aware ka. Yun yung dahilan kung bakit isa sa mga major reasons bakit natin nagkakandak ng ganitong seminar. For every single one of us to share our knowledge and be aware of the requirements sa ating bansa.
Okay. There is an answer here from the listener. So, ang tanong natin kanina, is there a fraud in your locality? So, meron sumagot from the listeners, no? Sabi niya, adulterated products, bagoong alamang with sapal na dark pink food color. So, naglalagay daw ng sapal along with the original na bagoong alamang. And then, longganisa with more TDP. And then another thing is spoiled fish added with pork blood. So yun yung comment from our listeners.
Ma'am Carmen, just have a remark for that comment. Thank
yes,
you
sir,
for
AJ.
that. Yes. The first thing I heard was bagoong adulterated products, bagoong alamang with sapal and dark pink food color. That's correct, yes, but it's not adulterated because number one, the use of sapal is not actually considered hazardous because sapal is also a food extender. And pink food color, as long as you're using the correct food color, that is food grade, that is not considered adulteration, but that is considered food fraud. Why? Because that has no intention to harm our consumer, but the intention is just to add more products for them to have more income. The second one I've heard was the longganisa with more TVP. For the benefit of our watchers and listeners who do not know what TVP is is textured vegetable protein. That is a protein that is based from maybe soy or whey. That actually is an extender for meat products. So longganisa with more TVP again is not adulterated but more fraudulent in nature because they're adding more products that are towards economic gain, not to harm anyone. And lastly, the one is spoiled fish added with pork blood. That is adulteration. Why? When you're adding pork blood to fish to make it more fresh, just to make the gills look red, it's actually hazardous for people, especially for those who are, number one, not consuming pork. These fish should be halal. So if the our Muslim brothers and sisters consume this fish that is adulterated with pork blood, it will become haram or dangerous for them in their religion. So that is one form of adulteration. The first two, the longganisa and the bagoong, is food fraud. But the last one is food adulteration.
Scar, anything more on your side?
Ma'am, now I'm looking, no, may nakita po ako, intended for Engineer Genisa. Ang question po goes like this: how metabolic products can be used to predict quality in food products? Reiterate ko po ulit, no? How metabolic products can be used to predict the quality in food products? Over to you, Engineer Genisa.
So metabolic products can be used to predict quality in our food. So if we combine it with our hydrolysis procedure, we can investigate our amino acid composition. So yung composition po ng pagkain natin, mas lalo po natin siyang maiintindihan. In terms of its amino acids, its fatty acid content and carbohydrate composition of our proteins, fats, and our polysaccharides can be determined using our metabolic products.
Thank you, Engineer Genisa, for that clarification. Now, can we check po if may mga questions pa tayo? So, looking through the Facebook and YouTube, please do make a questions po and clarification and kindly put it po sa ating chat boxes. Okay? Check lang po muna namin. How about you, Ma'am Carmen? Meron po ba?
Okay, just in lang to. Merong information from the outside, no? The BSFT or the ating Bachelor of Science in Food Science Technology of PWU was awarded level 4 accredited status by the PACU-COA. So just in lang yan, latest na information. PACU-COA is Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities Commission on Accreditation. So accredited po ang ating course, ang ating course ng PWU, level 4 na po tayo. So lume-level up na pa ang PWU. Okay,
Yes,
I would
take note
like
of that
to
po, no?
Okay, habang nire-review pa natin yung mga Q&A natin, we would like to reiterate that if we'd like to invite you all to attend the Day 2 seminar tomorrow, or Day 2 session tomorrow of this webinar with the following topics. So ang Day 2 natin, AM session, will share with you the current challenges and opportunities on Philippine agri-food sector. And then the next topic is okra. Wow, okra, the underrated food, what and why. So sa afternoon session naman for tomorrow, be careful about the food you choose, safe and quality. And then the second topic is the success and failure of food fortification programs. So meron pa ba tayong Q&A right now? May questions pa?
Checking po, Ma'am Carmen. I'll be back po.
Okay, another question here. What are the advantages of metabolomics? Sir Jane, can you answer those question or this question?
Okay po. So, ang advantages po na makukuha natin sa metabolomics is makakakuha po tayo ng rapid and reliable identification of our ng ating mga yung mga kinahinalaan pong mga adulterated food products po natin. So sa metabolomics din po, mas maiintindihan din po natin yung nutritional properties ng ating mga pagkain. So ano po ba yung mga biomarkers or ano po ba yung mga compounds na nagko-contribute para sa mga nutritional benefits na atin pong nakikita sa ating mga pagkain. And also, gaya din nga po, sa food metabolomics, pwede rin po nating ma-identify yung ating pong mga chemicals na present sa ating samples, yung mga toxins, mga drugs, and also pwede rin natin siya pong magamit to detect our microbial contamination at early stages po.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Jen. Then another question from FB listener. Is adulterated food correlated with all the chemical, toxins, drugs, residue? This question goes to Sir AJ and Miss I.
Let me try to answer that as we wait for Sir AJ. No, I think we need to first understand the definition of adulteration. So chemical, toxins, and drug residues po, if it's dangerous, as adulterant po, it is important for us na intindihin po natin yung definition ng adulteration. It can be related depending on kung ano yung gamit niya, kung anong gamit mo siya use. So I think it's very important for us to understand yung specific breakdown ng registration ng pagkain at ng paggawa ng pagkain natin. It can be correlated one way or another, but it is very important na intindihin natin yung proseso ng mga bagay na pinaprocess natin. Sir AJ?
Thank you, Ma'am Eileen. For the case of adulteration kasi, that's correlated with what you call food safety hazards. It is not 1:1. So when you say food safety hazards kasi to adulteration, sometimes it can still also be a concern of food safety. Kasi when you're studying food protection and safety, there's two arms, the food safety side and the food defense side. When you're talking about food safety, those are the things that are unintentionally added to your product. Like for example, when you are cooking meat or steak, but you have like a case of cross-contamination, that is considered a food safety issue. But if the product is the addition of products by intention or by purpose, that is considered adulteration, a part of food defense. So for example, yung meat natin, nilagyan siya ng, for example, bulking agents such as for example phosphates or benzoates para maging bulky yung meat natin, maging juicy siya. At the same time, it can be sold more expensive kasi mabigat siya. That is a case of food fraud or part of food defense. But for the case na aksidente siya na contaminate kasi mali ang kanya storage or natamaan siya na ganitong chemical during storage, that is food safety. So we have to consider what is the pathway at which those hazards was able to get in contact with your food. Is it intentional or unintentional? Kung unintentional, food safety concern. If it's intentional, adulteration, food defense concern yan. Okay?
Thank you, Sir AJ. No? At least now, may idea na tayo sa food defense and food adulteration. While looking to it, no, Sir AJ, nakita ko may another question tayo. Medyo natabunan lang siya. Related to dun sa sapal, sabi niya po, ay nagbabago ba ang shelf life ng bagoong na may sapal compared to sa walang bagoong? This is coming from PWU alumni.
All right, thank you, Ma'am Maricar, for that question. And thank you for the one who asked the question. Yes, because shelf life is determined by a different combination of factors. The food product itself, the additives, and all the preservatives being considered in the food matrix. So for example, ang laman talaga dapat ng bagoong ay asin at the alamang or minsan isda sa mga bagoong isda. Pag nalagyan mo ng sapal yan just to bulk up the bagoong, what will happen is hindi mo makakonsider yung food composition ng sapal na yon. Sometimes sapal is made out of plant material that has a different shelf life consideration to alamang. So magbabago talaga siya depende nga sa ating pinalagay na component. Kung pure alamang yon at mataas ang sodium niya, matagal ang shelf life niyan. And nagpo-ferment yan lactic acid wise. But kung may sapal yan, hindi na ferment ng lactic acid bacteria yung sapal. And therefore, hindi siya nagpo-produce ng natural preservative. And therefore, mababa nga ang shelf life niya.
Okay.
User no? Yes, Ma'am Carmen. May nakita
Okay.
kayong bago?
Meron pa tayong another question. So, voluminous sa mga questions natin ngayon, ha. Ito ay intended for all the resource speakers from the AM to the PM session natin. Ano? So, anything goes to, pwedeng sumagot ang lahat ng mga resource speakers natin. Is it appropriate to approach the local chief executives and propose guidelines to practice hygiene and sanitation practices in the production of food products sold online due to pandemic? So, sino ang pwedeng sumagot?
Ms. Carmen, if I may.
Okay, Ma'am G.
Yes, our listener is very right, no? Because according to the Food Safety Act of 2013, isa po yan sa mga assignments ng ating local government units. They are also part of the implementing agencies of our Food Safety Act, and they are also tasked to implement yung mga clauses ng ating Food Safety Act. Kasama po doon yung practicing of GMP and HACCP in the production of food products. So if these products are sold online and nasa jurisdiction nyo, you may approach your local chief executives. But strictly speaking, production of food products is under the FDA. Hindi po siya kasama dun sa mga listahan ng mga nire-regulate ng ating LGUs. But I think it will not do any harm if you approach our local chief executives and ask their helps to regulate yung mga alam nyo producing products illegally. Do you have other thoughts, Lion Noor?
Hello po.
Yes, Miss Lai.
Yes, Ma'am Lai.
Narinig po ako. Sorry po, wala pong camera tong laptop. Yes po, support lang po sa sinabi ni Ma'am G. Yes po, parang yung sa government po kasi natin, yung FSRA natin, kailangan talaga nagtutulong-tulungan po yan, collaboration with local government units and mga FDO natin para makapag-comply po tayo sa minimum requirements. And meron tayong mga batas na sinusundan para dun sa sanitation. Yun na nga po yung Sanitation Code of the Philippines. And pwede rin natin gawing guideline dyan yung A0153, yung pong current good manufacturing practices natin na pwedeng gamitin. And reference pa rin natin syempre po yung food safety. Kaya in-encourage talaga natin lahat na basahin yung mga guidelines natin na nilalabas po ng ating mga food safety regulatory agencies. Yun po. Thank you po.
So anyone, Sir Noor? Okay, I think Ma'am Carmen, no? I saw yes, Sir Noor, please proceed.
Yes po, tama po yun, Ma'am. Ma'am Lai, naka-base din pa siya if we need to, it is appropriate to approach our local executive regarding on the proposed guideline to practice. Actually, may mga existing na tayong regulation na ina-abide na na-mention kanina, yung Code of Sanitation of the Philippines for the LGU to issue as basis for the issuance of sanitary permits. And then ang kailangan lang natin dito, since nakabanggit naman po siya sa Food Safety Act of 2013, kailangan lang natin i-strengthen ang enforcement, especially pagdating sa LGU, sa mga kasi due to line of the pandemic, these are a booming economics sa mga pagdating sa catering, you can cook online. But yun nga, meron na tayong existing guidelines doon. Ang kailangan lang talaga natin is i-strengthen. Kung meron pa mang kailangan na dagdagan, then it will put up. But it will fall in the hands of the food safety regulatory agencies. So yun po yung sagot ko po. Thank you po.
Okay,
Thank you,
Ms.
Sir
Carr?
Noor.
Yes, oo.
Yes po. Thank you sa mga answer nila, no, Ma'am.
Yes, oo. We're still
Ma'am,
receiving.
Another question. Opo. Yes, you may proceed po, Ma'am Carmen.
Yes, we are still receiving several questions from the listeners, no? So I'm seeing here a question. Is the hardness of a bun food, ibig sabihin tinapay, a food fraud o considered food fraud?
Mauna siguro ako, sir, kung okay lang.
Go ahead, ma'am. Thank you.
I think you have to, we need to acknowledge there are different types of bread. We cannot just qualify one bread kasi iba't iba po ang process, iba't ibang ingredients, at iba't iba yung pamamaraan kung paano ito binibake. So, yung food fraud po, let's go back to the definition. Kung ito po ay economically driven, meron po siyang gusto nila to gain more money, then it can be considered as food fraud. But if it's just a process, we cannot judge it by as is kasi as we all know, gaya po ng sabi ko kanina, may iba't ibang uri ng tinapay na maaaring matigas sa tingin mo, sa iba naman, mas gusto nila yon. Remember, for example, baguette is a hard type of bread, unlike yung normal bun na ginagamit natin. But it cannot be, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na food fraud yun kasi magkaiba silang klase ng tinapay. So I think we need to consider that and the ingredients incorporated in a certain product. Sir AJ?
Okay. I'll be basing my answer from my experience in many years in the fast food industry where we are selling burgers and fries. Alam niyo na yan kung saan ako galing. So, in my experience kasi, yung buns will have a different kind of texture depende sa kanyang holding time. Of course, in our practice, in that quick service restaurant, if the bun is already past the holding time, it's being discarded. But if you notice that the bun is tough or crispy on the outside and it's not anymore acceptable to bite, that is considered maybe food fraud. Why? Maybe that restaurant or that food service establishment is delivering or serving food or the buns that is outside of the holding time. Kaya siya tumitigas. Number two, I don't want, maybe it's a consideration yung kay Ma'am Eileen earlier, na sinabi niya na iba-iba klase ng tinapay. In my case, it's different kasi isa lang naman ang quality ng bun when you're looking at the buns in the restaurants. But if it's past holding time, it will toughen up, mawawala ang moisture niya, and therefore, pag matigas yan, pwede food fraud na yan kasi they're serving you a lower quality or a substituted product na instead of being served a fresh bun, they're serving you an old bun.
Okay. Okay, again, before we forget, we'd like to invite you to attend the Day 2 session of this webinar with the following topics. For the AM session, we'll share with you the current challenges and opportunities on Philippine agri-food sector. And then the second topic for the morning is okra, the underrated food, what and why. For the afternoon session, the topics include be careful about the food you choose, safe and quality. And then the second is the success and failure of food fortification programs. Now, is there any questions pa?
Thank you for reminding, Ma'am Carmen. Thank you so much. So, Ma'am, I think it seems like na we almost cover na the questions from both platforms, Facebook and YouTube. If meron po kayong questions and nahihiya lang po kayo, kindly direct it to us, to the registration committee. So, Ma'am Carmen, we're getting close to the end of our time together. What do you think po ang next na?
So, yes, we are wrapping up. So, Ms. Carr?
Okay po, since we're getting close na po, since there are no questions na rin raised, and as we end our program, we would like to share with you the evaluation link for this session. So makikita nyo po siya sa chat box ng inyong Facebook and also presented as QR code sa inyong screen. May I remind lang po our participants that the link will be available for only 1.5 hours. It will be closed at exactly 5, or will give you ample time, siguro mga 5:30, but that's it na po. So kindly accomplish na lang po. So thank you.
Okay, we're now into the juicy part of this session. As we end our program, we'd like to request Dr. Menchita F. Dumlao, the Chairperson of Research Ethics Review Board, Head of Technology Integration Team, Learning Management Systems Administrator, Program Chair of Information Technology, to award the Certificate of Appreciation to our resource speakers. Okay, may I read the citation? The Philippine Women's University School of Food Science and Technology hereby awards this to the following as resource speaker during the webinar series on food safety and quality, Way Forward to Economic Recovery. Honorable Dr. Dumlao, please do the honor of announcing the names of our resource speakers. The floor is yours, Dr. Dumlao.
Yes, can you hear me now? Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am. We can hear you.
Thank you. And I am very much honored to award the certificate as cited by Ma'am Carmencita to the following speakers: Geraldine Cortinete, Angelica Yamzon, Noor Aziz Idocus, Nelpe Kim, Anthony James Bismasanos, Eileen Claire Francisco, and Gian Andriel Geniza.
Okay, ma'am. Given, yes, ma'am. Okay, given this day and signed by Honorable Maria Ligaya T. Braganza, Doctor of Education, Program Chair, School of Food Science and Technology.
Thank you, Dr. Domlao, for gracing our event. But before we let you go, let me ask the technical committee and all our resource speakers to kindly open your camera for a photo opportunity with Dr. Domlao. Okay, technical, kindly assist us to capture the screen. Okay, kindly open po your camera. Okay, 1. Sir AJ. Okay. Are we all set na po? I think we're complete na po. In queue. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay po. Thank you very much. As we
Recording stopped.
You're on mute, Ms. Scar.
Apologies. As we formally close for this session, we'll be singing the PW hymn.